board will now reconvene to open session and report out from closed session relative to item 3.2, public employee discipline dismissal release, government code section 54957. The board in closed session by unanimous vote determined to send notices of non-reelection pursuant to education code section 44929.21b to the following intern probationary certificated employees: number 7894, number 7749, number 3117, and number 7938. Item 3.4, number 1. Okay. Can I get the students to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Poor.
Here.
Canlis.
Here.
Chima.
Here.
Wong. Ishihira.
Here.
Gonzalez. Frick.
Here.
May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as written?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Poor.
Aye.
Canlis.
Aye.
Chima.
Aye.
Ishihira.
Aye.
Frick.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to 6.2, presentation on the 2019-2020 second interim report and multi-year projections for 2020. Oh, wait.
6.1.
6.1. Dr. Thompson.
All right, well, we're lucky today. We have, I think it's our annual update, right, on the status
That's
of
correct.
Mission Valley ROP, and I'll turn it over to you guys and to fill us in.
Thank you very much for not having us do the second interim. We weren't prepared for that. Senior management, Ms. Valdez, board, thank you for having us this evening. My name's Tom Hansen. I'm the superintendent of Mission Valley ROP. I'm joined tonight by the director of Ed Services at the center, Dr. Cliff Adamshart. We just want to come and talk a little bit about career technical ed and what we do at the center, how we do it, what makes our coursework a little bit different than what students typically experience in core focused instruction, which is basically every comprehensive site in the JPA. We stick to a historic funding and allocation of services model where 3 districts contribute to our general fund. 65% of funds come from Fremont, 20% come from New Haven, and 15% from Newark. And we work to seat and supply programming almost perfectly to those percentages annually. So that typically is a question from folks. So I'd just like to throw that in and talk a little bit about that. Mission Valley's been around for decades. We're a little over 40 years old, and we deliver career technical education. It is an all-elective program. None of what we do is technically required, but we fulfill a critical experience for students and for our district partners. We prepare students for successful business experiences and technical careers, in 9 of the 15 sectors, industry sectors that the state identifies. Our mission statement is we provide relevant career technical education for students in employment situations and training so that they can get a glimpse of what the working world is like, what standards are, what their technical experiences are going to be, and place many of them in community classroom. Our coursework is guided by a few different sets of parameters. One is from CDE. It's the 11 elements of high quality career technical ed, and that's from our California state plan for CTE. And if we just kind of look at this list and pick through, these are some of the things that make technical education courses different in many ways than what students experience in core education and some electives at the comprehensive sites. High quality curriculum and instruction. So we have designated subject credentialed professionals that come from industry, very different from subject area and multiple subject credentialed teachers. Career exploration and guidance, industry partnerships is a big part of what we do. We respond to industry information, labor market information, and the needs that they are telling us annually are in play in the marketplace. Responding to economic demands, student alignment, or system alignment and coherence, professional development. We also react to the California Standards for Career Ready Practice. This is a group of benchmarks and standards that our curriculum needs to address and reflect. And we can kind of look through and pick through this, apply appropriate technical skills, communicate clearly, effectively, and with reason, apply technology to enhance productivity, utilize critical thinking and make sense of problems, and persevere in problem solving. These attributes are often what make the CTE experience for students in traditional trades, the medical cluster, art, media, entertainment, anything we do. These goals and guidelines are what make these experiences extraordinary for kids. They put them in a position to connect dots and really point out, wow, students realize, I like this, or I don't think I really like this that much and I'm headed in the wrong direction. So the experience is really, really critical. Those guiding principles are combined with anchor standards, Common Core, next generation science standards, industry certifications, internships, work placement during the week, during the school week, UC A to G, course recognition, and college credit articulated coursework. All of these things are what career technical education courses provide students in school. At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Adams Hart to talk a little bit about industry certifications and articulations.
Thank you, Superintendent Hanson. One of the questions we get is, what kind of certifications does ROP offer? And we have listed here a number of them. These become important with the California dashboard and the CCI, the Career College Indicator, a part of that dashboard. We are now required to report these to the California dashboard, and so they become part of your CCI number. So industry certifications include your CPR certification that all our health sciences and public service students receive, HIPAA certification. We contract with a national exam company called Precision Exams. They also offer recognized industry certifications, and we have a number of our students, when I say number, it's into the thousands that take some of these exams. Food handler's card, so if you think of Chef Sheridan here at James Logan, all his students in that culinary program will receive that card, which is transferable to the industry. Then we have specific program certifications. The example we have here is medical assisting. So as students complete those programs, or that program with those different skill sets, they also receive certification there. And so these are all transferable to jobs and industry. The other thing we do now, keep track of, because it's also going to be reported to the dashboard, to the CCI, is internships. We get a lot of questions on how that's set up and the parameters behind that. So one of the things we want to do is just kind of let everybody know that's involved with this, or you maybe get questions, but students that meet a certain benchmark or grade requirement and skill level have that opportunity to go on to an internship. Most of this is in our medical fields. They actually go on into work in hospitals and clinics and small offices with real patients, with real doctors, with real nurses. And so we have some requirements, but one of them is they must provide their own transportation. We have about 500 to 700 students going on to internships every year, and we don't necessarily have the funding or the means by creating an ROP internship bus to pick them up and drop them off every day. And so we ask that students get their own internship transportation. Students that do not actually make that requirement as far as grade and skill level may be asked to drop from the program because they are working in live clinics, hospitals with real patients, doctors, and nurses, and our advisory committees made up of these individuals set those requirements. So they want to make sure that the students that are in their clinics and hospitals meet a certain grade and skill level. And then all our programs are guided and directed by an advisory committee. This was a question asked by this board last year about advisory committees. So they meet at least annually. They provide a number of services to our instructors. These industry advisory programs with these advisory boards, they are made up of local leaders in local business and industry. They review curriculum, they review equipment, they provide suggestions for curriculum and equipment. They provide information on industry trends and needs and skill sets. As things change in industry, they let our instructors know what the students need to learn and what skills they need to master. They also help us with providing guest speakers, equipment, internship, and job shadowing possibilities. So we are grateful for our advisory committees and the time and effort they give for us to make our program successful. Just some statistics about Mission Valley ROP right now. We are constantly looking to increase our A to G offerings for the UC system. Right now we have about 59 different CTE courses, 38. Actually now this actually is 40. We just received a couple of new approvals, but so 40 of our programs out of the 59 are A to G approved. So we're excited about that, which represents about 60-something% of our programming. Let me get past this one. Here we go. Articulated courses are valuable. So we have articulated with a number of the community colleges around them. So we have 42 of our courses, which represents about 71% of our curriculum. Students can take these courses, receive college credit when they meet the minimum requirements for the program. All of our UC A to G accredited courses may not also be aligned with the colleges, but most of them are. Additionally, about 40% of our students become pathway completers. Pathway completers achieving at least 300 hours in a program. And all the center classes, what we offer in Fremont, are 100% completers. When students successfully complete that, all our classes are 100%. Because they are a 2-hour class, so it meets that 300-hour requirement. Let me just skip through some of these. About 82% of our students that are taking an RLP class will either receive a UC A to G credit or an articulating credit, so we're excited about that. Last year, at the end of the year, we had 2,251 students receive industry certifications. And just to break that data down a little bit, 931 of those certificates went to James Logan students, and that also includes Conley, Caramello. 929 students received college credit, and that breaks down to 170 students from James Logan High School and Conley received college credit through Mission Valley ROP. So that is a statistic that is we are happy and proud to present to you. That translates to real dollars and savings in college, so that's a good thing for all those involved. This next slide I'm going to show you is the progress. This is something because it is part of the dashboard and it is part of our CCI requirements for all our districts, the progress that we've been making at Mission Valley ROP since we started tracking these in a lot more detail for the dashboard. And so you see the trend, we're constantly just moving forward, looking for more certifications, looking for more A to G classes and more articulated classes. So we continue to do that. We have some more UC A to G in the pipeline to be approved, and we're constantly working with our community colleges in the East Bay and in the Valley to increase the number of articulated classes. So I'm going to turn the time back over to Superintendent Hanson.
Thank you, Dr. Cliff, for that data. Of course, one of the state's 8 measures is the Career and College Indicator. It is something that Mission Valley ROP is a part of. There are many, many students who are going to be CCI percent prepared that never see a technical ed course. Our job really is to make sure that we are maximizing the opportunities in our elective program so that when a student takes a CTE course, chances are the highest that that student will be tipped over from approaching prepared to prepared, given that there are other factors. Essentially it's testing data from the 11th grade. So where we can contribute, we are really focusing on that. We have been since it became a reality. And Dr. Cliff mentioned the next items to come online in the CCI are intern hours certifications, and we are already working on those things and have been for quite some time. At this time, I'd like to ask if you have questions for us.
Member Frick?
No questions from the student member?
Number 4?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. You mentioned about the certificated program. How many classes do you have to take on average to be part of, get a certificate?
Well, just one.
Okay, so it's just
in every
individual.
single, I can't even think.
Okay, so each class will allow
Every
you
single class is
That's
going
what
to
I
have
thought, but I
some
thought
sort
it
of
was-
a certified exam. So
Okay.
we basically purchase a testing bank and then have students do a before and after. And that's what establishes many of our certifications, which the state has agreed to. And so programs like ours everywhere in the state are doing something similar. That's why the number's so high. It's, it's 2,300.
I thought so, but I just wanted to make sure,
Yes.
if it's a certificate, maybe there's a couple of, several different courses that might be tied in with that particular expertise. Anyway, I was part of
The
the
answer is not necessarily. Students would have a chance to certify in almost any
Any
course
course.
that we,
Sure.
yes.
So as I was saying, I was part of the ROP program. I took the medical assistant program. So having, to shadow a doctor
Yes.
certainly gives you a real life experience. Do you decide, do you want to continue down that path, or do you want to you hate it so much and you want to change it altogether? I think many of us do that many times over and over in college as well. My other question, I know this is something I don't think you presented, but it might be useful for those students who don't get to do an ROP class for whatever reason, whether they have transportation or they have so many other classes they're taking at Logan or Conley that they don't have the opportunity to take an ROP class. Someone who is maybe community college student or even a non-student. I know there were some industry technical programs that were available for adults. I know you didn't touch upon that.
Yes.
Today. Are those still
In very limited amounts. We do have a
Right,
fee-based
fee-based, yeah.
pharmacy tech course for
Is that
adults.
still the only one as of right now, or were there more added to that?
That is the only whole section. We do have a very small number of adults that pay a fee and work on their own automobiles, but those are in very limited numbers, and we don't actually put an instructor in front of those students.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, and just last question, I think I already know the answer, but are there any courses that allow virtual attendance or virtual learning for students who, again, don't have transportation or for whatever reason cannot make it to the Fremont campus?
No.
Okay.
No, and I think virtual academies have been around for a long time. I think they are far more likely to reside in the core area on a comprehensive site. So much of what we do involves practice and hands-on. So it's not that it wouldn't be possible, but it's probably
takes
less
away from that
likely
experience.
that we would do it than what you would find at middle school or high school.
Sure, and then actually just one last question. The internship program, I don't think we heard of, was that there last year as well? The internship
Well,
program?
we've been placing students connected to individual class enrollments for many, many, many years.
Okay, so internship program, is it during school hours or is it after school or weekends? How do these kids go, or are they just, the shadow program is part of synonymously with
They attend
internship?
a class period during the week, and similar to work experience, they will go to placement for a certain number of hours during the week. It's probably not during school time. It's weekend or
After school,
after
okay.
hours, yes.
Thank you, that's all I have. Yeah,
Member Carr, can I just clarify that just a little bit? So in the medical internship program, they usually have a morning class or an afternoon class. So if they have an afternoon class, they're allowed that time, say from 1 to 3 during the week from a Tuesday to a Friday, so they can do it during a school hour.
Okay.
So they're just making up for their time that they would be in that program. But if they're in a morning class, they're most likely do it in the afternoon or weekends.
thank you.
Member Campbell?
First of all, I'd like to make a comment and thank you for updating us. It's always nice to see progress, especially now that it's part of the dashboard report.
Yes.
Thank you so much. 2 questions. You may not have the answer with you right now, but thinking about Logan students who are signing up for the program, do you have a pattern or trend where our students from Logan tend to sign up for?
Well, yes, we do. This year, there are 950. I think the typical number of New Haven students in the program is around 900. A little over 10% of them end up coming to the center for coursework there. Now, that travel time to the center is not really what students in closer proximity to the center have to deal with, students in Fremont, students in Newark. So what we do is we refocus some of our resources and serve at the Logan campus at a much higher rate than we do at Newark and the Fremont comp sites. So a New Haven student is less likely to do a completer class at the center and far more likely to have access to 15 different courses at Logan. So that would be the pattern and the comparison.
And which fields are they tending to sign up for? Is it science field? Which industry do they tend to sign up for?
Well, medical occupations is very popular. We do run a transportation program, an auto shop at Logan. Engineering program is really popular, the Project Lead the Way coursework. We do have a culinary program, which is, it absolutely has our attention because we are in the middle of a capital improvement project at the school. I think the day after graduation, demolition will start, and hopefully by October, maybe Halloween, we'll have a refurbished new kitchen facility at the school. That's a very popular and heavily oversubscribed program. We also run a digital and traditional photo program. And I mean, I think we are about 6 FTE at Logan.
Thank
which
you.
is
The pie of, for the distribution for services and costs, the
Yes.
65% Fremont,
Yes.
20 here, and
Yes.
15 in North. Is that correlated in percentage with the number of students you're servicing, or is that just happen to be who is providing you the money and the offerings are open to everyone?
I think it starts with historic pass-through amounts that were based on what used to come directly to the ROP through the county. Then we entered LCFF, and there was a memo, a maintenance of effort, a fix on expenditures for career technical ed, and that has continued one way or another. So what we do is we make 20% available for New Haven students, and then track our spending. So, for example, we have a digital photo program. The teacher at Logan is not shy. He will tell us what needs updating and where we need to support him. And it's everything from cameras to, all kinds of nifty technology. So when the time comes that we need to catch up, these are the places that we go and find appropriate and highest priority expenditures. So that's how we keep things proportionate. In the past few years, we've been fortunate to get incentive grant matching dollars. So we are deficit spending every year, and the funds have not. They have continued to come to us. So we have a budget footprint that we are outspending at the same percentage of contribution.
Thank you so much. That was helpful.
Member Chima?
Welcome, and thank you so much to Superintendent Hanson for providing us the update and information. For the last 10 years, I've been serving in the MVROP through my subcommittee from the New Haven, so I admire your MVROP's work. I have seen it all program, so keep up the good work. And busing situation, it just came to my mind if we can find some solution to that for the internships, because that's very important, because our work is hands-on. And then last thing, because you mentioned that you will be providing the food handler certification program and it will be online, is that true? Yes. So since Ms. Kaur has already asked you about if it's online, can the other adults other than the normal high school students can participate, can join in that certification program?
So we contract out with the food handlers card certification, and right now the individual instructors and the high school students get a discounted rate, and we pay for that, and it's part of the curriculum for the culinary program.
I see.
And so if an adult student wanted to do that, they would have to do that on their own.
Oh, okay. Okay, just want to make sure that I clarify. Thank you. And the last thing I just want to is a sweet problem sometimes I do have when I say Thomas Hanson and John Thompson. So sometimes I get mixed up. So that's where it comes from, dealing with the two superintendents. But
Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to thank Tom for all his support, and Mission Valley ROP. It provides a valuable service to our kids, and for years to come, I hope it will too. Thank you.
We are really looking forward to a celebration when the kitchen opens next year. It's been lots of work in the planning. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Now moving on to 6.2, presentation of the 2019-2020 second interim report and multi-year projections for 2020, 21-22. Chief Business Officer Annette Heltman will present second interim budget report and multi-year projections and resolution number 038-1920 for approval.
Yes, good evening, Superintendent Thompson and members of the board. Annette Heldman, I'm your Chief Business Officer. So before you is completion of our second interim financials, which covers cumulatively from July 1st through the end of January. This is the authority or the ed code that requires us to perform this update on our finances. So I started showing this cycle, lately, just to be able to walk us through where we are in the current cycle, in the current update that we are presenting. So as you know, we start in June, adoption of the budget, and if necessary or warranted, we would do a 45-day revision. So following this cycle, the orange section is where we are today. It's what's being presented to you. So from that point on, we will then update one more time for 1920, and that would be the estimated actuals, which you will see in June. So if this was, like I said before, a directional map, we are in the orange section. So these are state factors that we use in calculating our state revenues, and there aren't very many standalone state revenues out there because a lot of them were actually folded into the formula. So these are those standalone state revenue that we receive outside of the formula. So this table now includes the updated COLA that we heard from the January proposals from the governor. And again, lottery is another standalone, what we should be contributing to the pensions, STIRS, and PERS. So we update these whenever there are new information from the state. So the previous slide are the state factors. These are the internal numbers that we use in calculating our revenue under the local control funding formula. They're more or less the same. In fact, just a very slight change in unduplicated pupil count, but we do still have to calculate that because you will see in slides later on what that change, that small uptick in the unduplicated pupil percentage means to us. So when we put together the variables in the last two pages, whether it's a state factor or an internal number, and we put it in the LCFF calculator, and this is by no means that calculator. It's much more complex than this one. This is our way of simplifying or illustrating what that means. So as you can see, you'll see some of those factors like the COLA, the unduplicated pupil count, the different, I call, the funding buckets under the LCFF, and it generates $103.8 million to us. That is our unrestricted revenue. For context, I included what that number was in prior year, which was the 100% full implementation. And, between those two numbers, in 1920, it generates over $200,000 to us in unrestricted. So this is actually where the bulk of the work is when we are updating our finances. Staff in fiscal services, this is the behind-the-scene work that happens. They look at open purchase orders. They look at outstanding encumbrances. They look at a variable payroll, meaning not the ones that are tied to position control. And they look at contracts, and they make all those necessary adjustments. As you can see, these are the different line items, major categories that generated an adjustment, a net positive adjustment of $1.4 million. What that means to us is, as you can see, I presented the projected ending balance a few months ago when we looked at first interim. That number, based on current information and the adjustments that were made, is now higher by $1.4 million. So if everything remains the same, we will close the year with $15.6 million. standing here, I can already tell you that based on what hasn't been captured in the system, that will be a higher number, assuming there are no new expenditures between now and then. So, just to pull some of the line items here, salaries and benefits, for example. As I said, when we project a number in the beginning of the year, we have certain projections based on trend, on variable payroll, for example, or vacancies, all types of employees. And as we progress throughout the year, obviously, if we haven't filled those vacancies, there will be savings. And whatever is corresponding to the time of the year that we didn't fill those vacancies, that's a saving that we drop to the ending balance. And that's how something like 1.4 million is generated. Now this, I'm not going to go through these because there's a lot of tiny numbers here, but this is just to illustrate how we do our detailed multi-year projection. This is actually not all of them because there's other cells here in which we put all the adjustments that we know. But this follows the structure, as I've mentioned in previous presentation, how the state actually does multi-year projection for school agencies like us. And this shows you that we're tracking from the last data set, which was first interim, the current data set, which is second interim. Both are in the current year of 1920, plus the 2 years that we are required by AB 1200 to project. So this is the more detailed one. We want to simplify it and with larger numbers so we can read it easily. This represents the previous page. So what this says is, again, there's 1920, the current latest financial update of second interim, plus the 2 years, which is 2021 and 21-22. I still included 18-19 because I want to be able to show the unrestricted ending balance, the actual unrestricted ending balance that we rolled over in the current year, as you can see, based, as depicted by the arrows. So what this sheet also says is if, once we take into account the revenue numbers that we were given by the Department of Finance, the spending trend as we know them at this point, and we don't do anything else, we don't implement additional reductions, we will have a $4.6 million problem in the third out year. Now the good news is, at first interim, that number was $8 million. Now remember, $1 saved today is $2 tomorrow. The 1.4 million that we generated in the current year, assuming that that is going to be our ending balance, is actually obviously helping us in terms of the 3-year projections. So this is if we don't do anything. And all our expenditure projections are based on the trend that we are seeing now. So this one is, obviously, we're not going to let that happen. We cannot close the 3-year budget with a negative number, and therefore, we put placeholder reductions in our multi-year projections so that we can illustrate to the county, our oversight agency, that we can balance the 3-year budget, and we will implement measures in order to do that. So here is the simplified version of that. The difference now is showing that if we were to implement a minimum reduction in 2021 of 2.4 million, ongoing, assuming that they are ongoing, and an additional $2 million in the out year, then we would be very okay for the year that we are having to work on. It does not completely eliminate the deficit spending, but it will help us in terms of balancing our 3-year budget. Before I go there, as you can see here, it goes all the way up to 21-22 only. The data sets that are available to us in terms of the state system, the financial system that we are mandated to use, only goes up to 3 years, and therefore current year plus 2, that's up to 21-22. We also want to be able to look at beyond that, right? Because in just a few weeks, or actually we're starting the 2021 development of the budget, which means that now would be our year 1, and the third out year will be 22-23. So how were we able to do that? We used the budget simulator that we created. We added 22, 23, and we added assumptions in the expenditure side and assumptions on the revenue side that were included in the governor's January proposals, and like I said, simulated them on the sheet. So this is the one that says, if we don't do anything, this is what we would look like, and as you can see, the $4.6 million problem in 21-22 is there. By just simply rolling that over and assuming that that is in fact the revenue projection that we would get, and we add the fixed costs that we know for 22-23 that are not yet in the current data set, we would be looking at 10.9 in 22-23. However, similar to what we did in the previous slide, using the simulator, once we implement ongoing reductions, for 2021, as you can see, $1 saved now is $2 tomorrow. That is the impact to our 3-year projections. And another slide that shows if we stay that course and we continue to right size and find deficiencies, and if there are no changes in terms of the revenue structure, and we implement an additional $2 million, then this is how the 3-year would look like. So next steps, this is just the the second interim. It's another dipstick to our finances. Next step, as I said earlier in that budget cycle, is we will be updating these again for estimated actuals report. That would be presented to you along with the proposed budget for 2021 plus 2 out years. And of course, the multi-year projection is what, we use it a lot. We rely on that. It's our tool to be able to see our health, our fiscal health in the coming 2 years. And of course, we're waiting for the May revise and other factors like enrollment, that we would use in terms of updating our assumptions as may be needed. And I believe that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Member Frick, any questions?
Do you know what slide the numbers are? Like on slide 11?
Oh, let me see if I could go back.
Okay. Wait. Okay. Are the
11?
yeah.
Okay.
Are the fake reduced like expenditures? Are they based on something, or are they just like random numbers?
They are based on something. So they are based on position control. For example, all the people that we have that are actually in positions. And not everyone is in position. We have substitutes. We have additional overtime or extra time for, all those, I call them variable payroll. And in terms of the other line items that are non-salary, they are based on contracts, purchase orders, things like that.
Okay. That's all I have for now.
Thank you.
Member Corr?
Yeah. Ms. Feldman, can you maybe explain what happens if you do not balance your 3-year budget with the county?
So in the first page of that board item actually explains the different scenarios if we're not able to meet, the 3-year balanced budget. There is something called a qualified balancing the budget or being able to pay or having enough cash to pay our financial obligations, then it's a path to state receivership. And what that means is we will have to have an emergency loan from the state. Someone from the state, the steward, would be assigned to our district, and they would be calling the shots on a lot of the decisions for our local district.
And it's safe to say that we have never been in that situation.
As far as I know, we've never been in that situation, and we hope not to be in that
Right.
situation.
Thank you. One other question is, the PERS numbers go up quite substantially, almost 5% in 3 years. How will you be, I guess, incorporating that into your budget? I think it's almost 5% jump from this year and then 2 out years. Does that worry you?
It worries all the districts. So pension cost actually came along with LCFF, but without additional funding. And therefore, whatever the funding gap we got from LCFF, we also had to set aside. That to us, the cumulative impact up to 2021 is about $8 million. So that's $8 million right off the bat from our LCFF benefit contribution. So how are we managing it? We are managing it with the same amount of money that we have been receiving from LCFF. So prior to the increase, it was 8.25%. When that was approved at the state level, it said that we will incrementally go up until it reaches 19.1%. And all of the difference was actually paid by employers like us.
So now we're jumping to 24.9 almost.
Yes.
Potentially in 21,
Yes.
22.
In fact, it's the latest word on that is it will stay at the current level up until 2045, 46, seems too far out. However, there is a board resolution by CalSTRS board that depending on the state pension liability, that they actually have the right to even change that further, even though it is at the level, by 2021, it would be at the level that was approved to begin with.
Thank you. This is not related to what you presented, but you know, it's kind of what's happening now with the whole coronavirus. Are you even adding that anywhere in your projections for possibly the next readout? Hopefully we'll never have to close a site, but if there is going to be an opportunity where we will have to do that, you know, chances are it's going to be for a long term. How will that play out? Something to think about, and I don't know if you've already thought about that and started plugging in numbers for that.
Recently, these financials actually include that we rolled out to all of our school sites. But in terms of, you know, should this keep progressing on the wrong end of it, then we don't actually have anything projected for a school closure or anything like that. Something like such a pandemic, you know, if there's a closure that's resulted by something that really is not a local issue, then we've mastered the application for a J13 waiver. We've done it a few times now, and you know, one would hope that that would be a provision that would be allowed by the state.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Callis?
Yes, first of all, again, thank you for your work in trying to simplify the projections. So I'm just going to summarize it for myself to make sure I understood it. So if we have put the reductions you propose, we should be positively certified by the county. If we do not, we will have those deficits as indicated in those charts, and we will not be positively certified by the county.
Yes, and I would like to add to that, if we do not, this is a proactive measure. If we do not take that approach, we would have to cut an enormous amount in a single year in order to avoid what we just described.
And in the way it's written right now in the proposal, it's done in an increment so that it's not all happening at one time.
Yes.
And I think I understand that the savings on 1 year would mean double the following year if we did not do it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Member Chima?
Again, thank you so much for your work, for explaining in a simple manner to the community, but still there is a lot of jargon in our work. So we are, as a system, we are trying to make it easier for the community to understand our budget process, so that we are not in a situation which we were in last year after the strike. In the slide number 5, so if you can explain there is a good attendance in the audience today from the community. See the unduplicated pupil percentage 53.39 and 53.85 in the LCFF revenue assumptions. If you can explain that part, I will appreciate that.
Sure. So the unduplicated pupil population are our students that are either, or sometimes they can qualify in more than one category. English learners, economically disadvantaged, those who are in foster care, and if we have any migrant students. And the state called it unduplicated because for funding purposes, we can only count one student one time, even if that student may actually be eligible for all of them. And thanks for reminding me. I did want to point out that this very slight uptick in our unduplicated pupil count, if you look at this line, it's the one that says increased LCFF revenues by 85,000. That accounts for that increase. We're still not getting concentration dollars because we're still under the 55%, but something like that did generate something for us. Now, of course, keeping in mind that this is just one, data point in the entire revenue projection, but it did generate something additional.
So also, because we are explaining this, if you can also mention or share with the community members, in case some of the students, they have not applied for the free lunch or those kind of applications, if we cross over to, because of our data, 55, then we are entitled to some additional funds. So we would like to share it with the community in case there are some members or families in the community who have not filled out their free lunch or reduced lunch applications. They should do so and help themselves as well as help the district to bring those dollars in. Thank you. And also I would like to remind that even though we have not, we have been certified positively for many years now, but when we came on the board in the early years, we were 1 or 2 times in the qualified spectrum. We were not positively certified. So I do remember those 1 or 2 years when we sold the Cabello property at the time, and we were able to balance our budget in a better manner. So also I would like to share with the community that as a board, as a system, we have directed our superintendent to work on reducing the structural deficit problem our district has. So we are working, our new superintendent is working on that. Hopefully we will, financially we will be more stable. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Chima. One quick question. How many opportunities have we had to engage with community members regarding how best to manage our necessary cuts? So like how many different opportunities did we have to engage with the community?
I can answer that. I'm losing track. I think we have 11 community engagement opportunities, and then we're going to every site to meet with our faculty meetings, and we're meeting with every department across the district. And we've had a running online survey for anybody else who wants to engage with it that way.
Okay, and what is the mechanism by which the board will be presented with kind of a distillation or a summary of, of what the recommended, reductions could look like from the community?
Right. So we started with some general recommendations before we began the LCAP development process, and those came to the board in January. And then we've been going through the process of gathering input. We're about halfway through. Today, for example, we had our joint union meeting where we went with representatives from NHTA, CSEA, and NHAA, and kind of did a deeper dive with them into the LCAP itself, into the budget, and then shared with them our preliminary results. So that'll give them an opportunity to be more informed for giving us more feedback. We continue to make adjustments as we move along. For example, at our last board meeting, based on feedback, we recommended pulling back what was in January, a recommended increase in class size in TKK from 24 to 26. We pulled that off based on feedback that we got. Actually, tonight, we are recommending, we had in January 2 counseling cuts on the list. We're recommending pulling back one of those and only having one going forward at this point, and that's based in large part due to the feedback we get. So, long story short, once we complete this process, we'll have a draft of all of that together, and our bookend groups that we meet, the group that we meet with is the Guiding Coalition. So we started with them. We'll come forward with all of that stuff, put it all together, end with them, and after we get the final bit of feedback from them, the board will be presented with all of the data. It'll be available to the public as well, and then we'll present to you also, based on all of that feedback, the draft LCAP, and also shortly after the draft 2021 budget.
Okay, and because part of that is we've still got, according to this, I think we still have another 2.4 million and then another 2.4 million that we have to cut after that. Using this as a base, using this as kind of a reference document for us to kind of figure out the best areas and the best ways to go about doing this with community input, I think it's going to be incredibly important. So I look forward to seeing the report.
Yeah, and actually, if I can address that, can you go back to slide 11 again? Gianna picked a good slide. That's one. It shows we have a problem, and then we have something that's positive as well here. So this slide does a good job of illustrating, at least for the current years, our biggest problem, the structural deficit that we have. And it's pretty easy to look at. You see income across the top, and then you see our expenses in that next row down, and those red numbers are each year our projected amount that we're going to deficit spend. It's pretty simple math when you think about it and conceptually, which is if you spend more than you get, you got a problem. And I use this analogy a lot, where if you're making $1,000 a month but you're spending $1,500, you have a problem in that month, but you can fix it with the savings account. Our savings account, you can see, and this is this is the benefit of having that big balance, the 27 million in 1920 that we started with, ending the year with 15 million, hopefully more in 2021, and then in 21-22, 11 million. Remember, that includes things like the 3% reserve, but that allows us not have to do really catastrophic cuts in one fell swoop. We can take advantage of making a $1 reduction here in year one is $2 in year 2 and $3 in year 3. That's what's carrying us through. But we have to fix that structural deficit. And there's and I like to use this as an opportunity to point out that there's two parts to that deficit. One is declining enrollment, which is, of course, declining enrollment is not a problem as long as you're right-sizing and making adjustments as you go along. The other problem, though, is a huge state problem, where the average district in California next year in 2021 is going to get less money than the increase in their expenditures. So we're going to get money from COLA, that's great, but our costs are projected to exceed significantly that extra money that we get. So our spending power actually next year is less than it is this year. And that's because of the PERS and STIRS increases. It's because of things like our funding of other programs like special education and some of the other programs that we're mandated to fund, and we should fund, but it'd be nice if we got the state to at least meet those part way, and they don't. And that is a huge problem for the average district in California, and we're no exception. So until the state changes that, we're going to continue to have to right-size this way.
Member Callis?
Yeah, when you mentioned the community input, I'm just wondering, are we getting any community input on the online questioning that we have? Did we put that out yet?
Yeah, it's been out and available for a while. When we go to our LCAP meetings, our community engagement meetings, we orient them towards that as well. We've had not an overwhelming 38 responses.
30 responses?
38 responses, but we've had overall, between our meeting notes and the green cards that we give out, I don't know, a few hundred, 3 or 4, I don't know, it was a thick, we went through it today, and it was, I don't know, 25, 30 pages maybe, front and back
What we reviewed
responses.
today, yeah.
Okay, and so we're in the process of looking for trends and patterns that
Yes.
the community might be suggesting?
Yeah,
Okay.
and two trends that have emerged quite clearly, and we've addressed them in one way or, in small amounts. Class size was a definite trend that we saw, and then mental health services, and we provide that in a number of ways, counselors, social workers, things like that. There's a definite need to attack the social, emotional, and mental health needs of our kids, and it's goal 2 in the goals that you adopted. So our challenge is, how do we create systems and build those out? And while we're still doing things like we're still cutting a social worker and a counselor next year. So that's we're trying to taper our reductions, and we were able to do that because of that ending balance, rather than have to cut everything at once.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right, moving on to 7.1, items from the board. We'll start with Member Frick.
Many people at Logan I know are worried about the coronavirus and are kind of questioning what's going to happen because they're seeing like other schools closing down that are close to us. And I think Mr. Barr is sending out an email about it soon. And today he sent out an email also addressing, because we've been having like strings of like vandalism and like there's being fireworks set off at school and stuff. And also like fake fire alarms. So that's kind of weird. It's something that's been happening recently. And then also tomorrow we have our blood drive and it's all day. And if you're 17 and up, you can drop in all day and donate at any time if you don't have an appointment. And then also next week, I know leadership has been working on a vaping awareness week, and skits are also in the works for night rally, which is on the 27th of this month. And last week, I also sent out student advisory board applications for Logan students, and so I'm gonna have my first meeting for that this month. And then also a reminder for everyone is there's an LCAP and budget prioritization meeting on March 19th, so everyone should come and share your input. That's all I have.
Thank you. Member Corr?
Thank you. I feel like I'm going to piggyback on the two things that you mentioned. One is the coronavirus. You're right, it's on everyone's mind. And I think with the whole docking of the cruise ship and also a few of the school closures, we're getting a lot of emails, just parents asking, parents are saying, should we even send our kids, right? I mean, and then on the other side, there's the whole discrimination factor that a lot of the Asian students might be facing. Not just students, right? I mean, I hate to say it, adults are also doing that with other adults. So I think we need to really be mindful of that and really understand that we're all in this together and we have to all tackle it together, because if I'm hoarding everything, if I'm feeling like I'm gonna protect myself only, you're not really living in a bubble. I think we have to kind of come and face the reality. With that, I want to congratulate and thank our staff for really being proactive and taking in all the precautionary measures. I know we had the hand wash and drying campaign going on within the district, and all the, providing extra supplies to, I saw those. Those are, you can't walk, I think, 2 feet without seeing that, especially in that bathroom. So it's a great reminder. So thank you for that. I think, and I know I've sent you so many emails on this. I've always said, what more are we doing? What more are we doing? And I think for me, I've shared it with you guys. It's more personal because I have family that's here from China way before the coronavirus outbroke, and they're impacted. They cannot go back to school. Kids are online school. As a matter of fact, one of my nieces is enrolled now in our elementary schools here because they cannot go back. So I'm reminded of it all the time. And obviously now my sister's thinking, oh my gosh, now that we're here, we thought we were safe. Are we really safe, right? So I think a lot of parents are feeling that way. So we really need to continue with the communication and our contingency plan. I think we really have to think about what that plan is going to look like for our community and for our staff in our district, and not necessarily wait until we hear from the governor or the CDC or the county to really start making these plans. We went from being in a safe zone, right, because it's so far away. It's not a fire, it's not a flood, and it's here now. So I think the worry is just, people are afraid, people are fearful of their health. So we really need to just get that information out as we have it so people can plan for it in case there is going to be a closure of schools. Most of us are working full time. They may need to start figuring out what their plan is going to look like if they have to find childcare and other ways of keeping their kids safe. And I think the last BC you had sent out, you talked about the online or remote learning. I know we're not equipped, and not a whole lot of public districts are. But we really need to figure out and maybe put that plan in action, if not for now, later on down the line, once we have a buy-in from all our stakeholders. I think that's really all I had to touch upon. And then the last thing is the community meetings on the budget and the LCAP. The District Punjabi Parent Advisory Group is meeting tomorrow. So if you haven't had the chance to attend any of the budget meetings, tomorrow might be an opportunity if you are available. It starts at 6:30 at the district office here. That's all.
Thank you. Member Pans?
Thank you, Member Kirk. Those are really important points that you mentioned regarding the coronavirus, and I'm going to ask something else in the end when I get to the end of the list of things I want to talk about in relation to that. I just want to report back on that this board had a meeting on February 25th, study session on effective communications between the trustee and a refresher on the Brown Act, so that was good. Thank you for providing that, so we could become effective trustee in serving our students. It's very important that we continue to refresh ourselves in what we do. On May 4th, we also had another meeting on discussing and comparing a bond measure and partial tax to see which one is the more effective way of increasing our revenue to address our deficit. So that was good and informative, and we're in the process of making decisions on that as a board, see which one is more useful for us as a district. On March 5th, the Alameda County School Board Association had a meeting and presentation on the dashboard and mental health from the county, and that was very informative, and there's a lot of things I did not know that the county is now beginning to provide us services to districts. So if you have any questions, staff, regarding mental health issues, there might be opportunity for us to get grants from them that are not out there yet, because that department is just in the process of getting set up. So that was good to know, and I did not know a lot of the things that were presented, and I think a lot of districts are not familiar because it's just starting out and it's new. On May 14 is the next Alameda County School Board meeting, and this one is on ethnic studies, but it's all, the county is presenting and updating us where we are. As far as you know, it's on hold right now, so they will be informing us as far as updates regarding that in various districts in the area. That night will also be a appreciation dinner for school boards in the county, so you're all invited and you're allowed to bring one guest, and superintendent is invited as well. It would be a great opportunity for you to talk to other board members in the other districts from Emeryville all the way to Fremont regarding what they're doing on ethnic studies. Dinner would be multicultural, and if you want to dress up from your culture, you're welcome to come dressed up. So it's both informative, networking, and dinner with your fellow board members in the county. It's so important to know who they are, what their names, what they're doing in their district, so that you could call them. As everybody know, Brown Act, we can't talk about things among ourselves here, but it's okay to talk to other board members to see what's happening in their district and see if they could help us and support us in problem solving about things that we are in the process of trying to solve. So you're all invited. I hope you can all come. You could bring a community member. Like I said, one guest would be great, and get involved with the other board members. On May 1st, the foundation is having their first show. I hope you all come in and support the foundation, because whatever we make here goes back to the classroom, the teachers and students. But they are still looking for New Haven alumni performers. So if you have a talent that you would like to share with the community, this is a good time to call Mr. Michael Ritchie and let him know that you would like to perform for our students. And we would like to see you guys there if you want to do something. It would be so nice for the students to see you performing up there. You could be a comedian, that would be acceptable too. But no more than 15 minutes time. I will reserve the budget report at the budget time. And March 17, CSBA legislative action has been canceled. So due to the same reason as you mentioned, coronavirus, there's a lot of things being canceled right now, which brings me to my last point. I believe our superintendent has a lot of updates that he would like to share with us today, if possible, regarding what's going on, because parents want to know what we're doing, and just There's so many questions, so I'll leave this up to him to report when we get to him. Thank you so much.
Okay. Member Chim.
First of all, I would like to share with the community that when I got elected to the board, let's not start negative. This board is working so hard to assist the system, assist our students and the staff to move forward. So even though regularly we meet twice a month for the regular board meetings, but then other than that, we have so many sessions to make our whole education system better. So some of the things Linda has mentioned, I know Sharon has skipped some of those, so all of us, we participate in those sessions on February 25th. So when we did the board study session for the board self-governance, there is a policy in the consent agenda item, I think it's a 12.2, approve, no, it's in the consent, where is it? Governance study session, right. It's a 12.2. So we try to improve ourselves, how we communicate with the people among ourselves, or to the staff, or how we disseminate the information to the community. We try to better ourselves. So we attended that, and then February 27, I attended James Logan High School's superintendent's honor roll celebration, and this was the first year that we have opened this celebration to the parents or community members to come join during the daytime. And this was my first time to participate, and I was so impressed that 18% of our student body was in that superintendent's honor roll. That means they had worked so hard to get the GPA 4.0 and above. And highest was, I think, 4.87. And another one was, second was 4.7. It was so impressive. I'm really proud of the students who work so hard to achieve that higher grades they like to. And then, so I also attended the Alvarado Elementary Distinguished School Celebration. It's another proud moment for us and our staff and whole school system. They worked so hard to, it's not easy to get those kind of distinguished awards. You have to go through so much lengthy process, apply. First you have to achieve the things, then you have to go through the process, apply, and get it done. So we are proud of our staff and our students there too, and we are proud of that one of our elementary schools had earned this distinguished school award, even though all of our schools and they are working hard and they are teaching our kids the right things and helping them out. So after that, on March 3rd, California primary election is over, and now we have a little bit more direction that who will be in the November on the ballot. And I did my part of serving, doing my civic duty, which I started a long time back after we became citizens in 2000, serving in the elections, the whole family. So I served in the election all day. And on March 4th, our board, we had a parcel and bond tax study session. So I just want to let the community members know that be vigilant for the information. Maybe you can go online. There is a whole big presentation. Is it on our New Haven's site already? That PowerPoint presentation we had on that day.
Oh, I'm sorry, which presentation?
The PowerPoint presentation for the parcel and tax study session.
I'll have to check. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So if it's not, it will be soon. I know that. So board is contemplating to help ourselves out, our community, our teachers after the last year's strike, that we should ask our local community to take care of our own kids and our system, education system. public education is becoming very expensive because of there is not adequate funding from the state and federal, so we need to help ourselves out. So we would like to, there was a survey and community already have given their feedback through the survey, but they can always come back and express their views about which way they want to go here on the board, and let the staff also know that if we want to pursue for the bond or for the parcel tax to help our public schools or our own schools, New Haven schools. Then after that, member Kaur has already mentioned that tomorrow is another LCAP session with the Punjabi parents. You are welcome to come join us. And then on March 19, there will be a big session about the LCAP participation and how our budget, we should prioritize our budget in the IVC middle. So I encourage community members to come and join and find out as much information as you can before it's too late. Thank you so much for your interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Thompson?
Yeah, a few things. I feel like I'm the coronavirus coordinator right now. I feel like that's all I've been doing.
I didn't want to repeat, so.
Yeah, I've never seen anything quite like this in my 27 years in public education, and it's. There's a lot of concern, a lot of unknown. That's the biggest problem, is the unknown factors that are out there. So locally, things really haven't changed for us. We're still there's no specific recommendations by the health department other than wash your hands, take precautionary measures to keep yourself safe, try to make sure you're taking care of people that might be at risk. But what's happened around us is things have changed dramatically. The Public Health Department finally has been putting out some guidance. Actually, they went from putting out very little to now I think I've received 2 different guiding documents in the last 48 hours. But what their big focus now seems to be on containment. So, for example, limiting attending big public events. That's what you hear in the news. And they've given us guidance on that and not specific to schools, but to agencies or anybody that's planning these types of events. For us, where it comes into play is assemblies, field trips, things like that. They aren't recommending that we stop doing any of those things, but what they're recommending is that we evaluate anything that we do through the lens of whether or not we're moving from our current region to other regions. And they're not recommending that. They're trying to limit people moving around because that limits the amount of potential for things to be transmitted. They're also recommending that we evaluate things, field trips, assemblies, things like that, in terms of density. So, for example, if we're putting people into really confined places where everybody's standing next to each other, that kind of thing. And so, again, locally, what we're doing, the guidance I gave principals today was if there's a field trip outside of the area that involves going, from our region, they don't define region either, but basically moving out of our area to another area, and it's going to put students in situations where there's a bunch of students close together, then for those, we should postpone or cancel those at this point. Locally, we're not recommending at this point canceling school assemblies, things like that, because quite frankly, that guidance isn't there yet. So we're trying to be as responsive and proactive as we can. To that end, I really want to thank NHTA in particular for meeting with us today. We've been working on what would it look like if we close our schools. What does a remote learning situation look like? Easy to picture that at the college level where kids are all connected and they're adults and out there learning in that environment. Hard to imagine a kindergartner working remotely on his or her own at home. So there are a lot of different challenges with that. Every school district's grappling with it, and what we talked about with NHTA today is what would that look like, and what we're hoping to do is have some subgroups of teachers helping us kind of build some of that out using some of the templates that we have. I'm working with, again, we haven't rolled that out yet, but we've done some of the background work at the administrative level of how we could scale that, what that might look like. Now we need to spend more time engaging with NHT and CSEA too about what that might look like if we had to dismiss students or close our schools. So that's all coming, and things could change. Things probably will change. I've seen 2 emails come through just since the board meeting about updates on where things are. So they might have changed already. That's the problem, we don't know. So that's the coronavirus piece.
Can I have a quick question? How is this situation affecting our ADA right now, student attendance?
Yeah, one of the things that we've done locally is try to create tiers of, different situational tiers. And the first tier is when there's no local incident that would result in a school closure, but where there's enough concern at the parental level where they start holding kids back. And it starts, there's a point where if parents are keeping their kids out of school, where it creates an operational problem for us. And, for example, independent study, as an example, is not something we can do for half a class. We can do it for a student here or there. So we haven't reached that level yet. I'm hoping we don't. But we are preparing and thinking about that contingency of that would be an ADA impact right there. If we have to close a school or send students home, and believe it or not, those are two different things. Closing a school means everybody goes home. Dismissing students means staff stays and students go home. In that scenario, I'm assuming that the state will grant a waiver for ADA and it won't be a problem. So it's really that first scenario that's our biggest problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, on to other things. I will say, I saw something I've never seen before. I was at an event Saturday and there was a line for the men's room. And so I'm thinking, okay, a line for the it wasn't to use the restroom, it was to wash their hands.
Wow.
So I've never seen that before. So that's wash your hands. I know.
I'm thinking of something right now, but I won't say it publicly.
We did have last week, New Haven Unified School District, Hand Washing Awareness Day, so everyone had, there's lots of these posters around. I see them everywhere I go now as well. So that might be, there's not much positive from this, but I did hear one staff member say, gee, I really didn't know how to wash my hands before, and I do now. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing, right?
And also, instead of shaking your
Wow.
hand, you just go like this.
So I don't know. Anyway, so there's that. On a couple more positive ends, first I wanted to thank Annette. That preparing the budget, that 300-page document is a lot of work, and her staff puts a lot of time into that. So I want to thank Annette and her staff for that. And then a couple positive things. I could not believe that we have 621 students at Logan that are currently maintaining a 4.0 GPA or higher. That is just phenomenal. And that's a tribute to the hard work from the teachers, the staff, and those students for committing to it. I know what that's like as seeing my students try to go through that. It's an amazing, amazing thing. And girls wrestling team. We've only had, in the history of Logan, as I understand it, 4 state championships. And that's including the girls' state wrestling championship. That's quite an amazing thing. Think about it. The history of Logan High School, and only 4 championships, period, 3 in track, and now 1 in wrestling. And one young lady who was actually a state champion. So I'm hoping to actually invite them to a board meeting where we can come and it's an incredible accomplishment. And then lastly, Crab Feed Saturday, if you're not doing anything else to support our athletic programs. That's it for me.
All right, thank you. I'll keep mine short. This is just based on the governance session. Thank you, everybody, for showing up and great contributions. I do have some draft protocols that I will actually add into our handbook, and I'll distribute it to the board so you guys will have an idea of what the differences are. So we can bring that back to a future board meeting, maybe in April, for adoption. But it would be good for. I appreciate that we have a lot more protocols that make things a little bit more clear, specifically around electronic communications, abstentions, and a couple other things. So, thank you. That's all I. Oh, yes.
Because you are on this item, so today when I was reading that policy in our agenda, I know we've been trying to rotation program somehow, the president. So some ideas came to my mind. I will share it with you. So find a solution.
All right. Great. All right then. Moving on to 8.1, report from the Budget and Finance Committee.
Well, our next meeting is not till this Thursday, the 12th, but Ms. Heldman has presented our budget today, so probably would have lesser to report after the meeting because we covered it tonight.
Okay.
So when do we present that survey results for the parcel tax to our community? Annette, so I think that falls under our
We haven't
budget and
decided which one to do yet.
Right, so, I mean, no, we need to just share the survey results to the whole community through the, bringing it on the agenda. We did have a special session for us, so can we do it, make it a part of the agenda item on the board?
Just to remind, I'm sorry,
ahead.
we've
Yeah.
done that already. We had a board session last October for the bond. It's been done
Bond.
twice, and then we had one in August. Then they'll be back in April, and we can post the results on our website, so that we've already actually had.
Yeah, we need to let the community know now, because November will be here before we even know it, so let them know these are survey results, and which way, community, they can still give their input if they are for the parcel tax, or the bond tax, or for nothing, or whatever, yeah.
Okay. All right, then, moving on to 8.2, which is the report out from the Communication and Advocacy Committee. Did you want to say anything? You want me to do it? Okay. So we met on February 28th, and according to our plan, what we did is we actually broke down work streams, and we plotted out milestones for the next year and a half, for the next 2 years. Those work streams are brand alignment, website, social media, outbound communications, marketing and advocacy, and resourcing as the work streams that we're working through. And then we've identified milestones that we don't have yet dates for, but we have generally like end of one quarter, beginning of the next quarter. So we have really rough timelines, not necessarily deadlines, but we're marching towards that. Frank, who is our technology director, is heading up a website subcommittee that is going to be working through just kind of an idea of what is all the content that should be on our district website. What's there, what shouldn't be there. He'll be going through search log analysis to take a look at when people come to when people come to our website, what specifically are they looking for? So that way we can kind of reduce some of the stuff that people don't need, and then we can actually focus the content on our website to things that people go there for. So those are some of the big outcomes from the last meeting. We'll continue to refine that and get a little bit more definite dates. But we have we have people assigned to all the different work streams. And then our next meeting is on March 26th at 4 p.m. March 26th. Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we're trying to head toward a direction where using our website is user-friendly, because
Yeah.
right now it's a little bit hard to navigate.
That's correct.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. And then the other question is, thank you for changing the way our e-news looks like. It's a little bit more friendly, and it's not hard to read, so that's great. My question is, we want to reach as many people as possible. Right now, I don't know how to use that without taking a picture of it and post it somewhere else.
Are you talking about the
E-news.
The e-news?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of work that we're doing here. One big stream that we're working through is reducing or improving the signal to noise ratio. In other words, we've got a lot of outbound communications. We're trying to figure out. We've got one from Peach Jar, we've got one from Google Groups, we have one from our Q Communication, and we're just trying to consolidate that and rationalize and figure out which channel makes the most sense. That's one thing. The other thing is we want to, one of the things that's on tap for one of our upcoming meetings is a content analysis. We'll take a look at e-news and we'll do a content analysis to say, okay, that is a blurb, maybe that's a tweet, oh, that's an event, maybe that goes on a calendar, so that maybe it'll become less important to necessarily have, one big rolled up e-news and actually have content types live where they should live. And so that way, like, oh, if you want to share.
So there'll be a link.
Correct. So
Okay.
like, if you wanted to talk about, I don't know, guiding coalition meeting, right? You should be able to go someplace and just share a link to a calendar event on some platform. Could be Facebook, could be maybe WordPress or Edleo or something like that. But the idea is that events should live in calendars. Small blurbs maybe should be tweets. Maybe longer form can be like a full post or a Facebook page post. But we're trying to reconcile that and mapping the right media channel with the content type.
Right.
And there's going to be some work that we're going to have to do there, but we just want to rationalize that and figure it out.
Well, you've come a long ways, because right now there are a lot of links that you could click on to go somewhere else to
Yeah.
get that information. It's just that for me to spread the news out, it's too hard for me to share it.
Yeah.
It comes out all just the content
Member
without
Campbell,
the,
Just to answer that question in a very simple manner, you can go to the district page and actually attach the hyperlink. So instead
right,
of copying and
right.
pasting
But I'm
that-
saying just go directly from the e-news to there instead of having to go back to the district. Because the district page right now is not, well, it's not user-friendly for people like me. Might be easy for other people, but we want to make sure that the community has different levels of expertise on
Yep.
what they want to share. So I'm looking forward for when it's easy. There's a lot of things in the media out there where all you have to do is share it.
Just embed.
Right.
Embed
With
on
one
Facebook
button,
or whatever,
right.
they can just have those.
Yeah, but
signs
you've
underneath.
we've come a long ways, and I really like where we are right now. I'm just wondering what we're going to be doing next
Yeah.
and how we're going to be doing
Yeah, and
it.
when we have a little bit more work done on the website, I think we'll be able to share it. But I think one of the big things is to figure out something that is open source, something that's accessible, something that's localizable. You have a lot of different languages. There's a lot of considerations to get into to make sure that we have the right publishing platform. And part of that user friendliness and making it easy to share is all part of of figuring out the right publishing package.
Yeah, and it's part of the marketing.
It is,
Yeah, and
yes.
thank you for your work. I really appreciate how far we've come in such a short period of time. Thank
Of
you.
course. Thank you. All right, then moving on to 8.3, which is other committee reports. Do we have any other committee reports?
I've already reported
You've already
on
for the
AXPA.
foundation and AXPA. We've already talked
Yeah.
about a lot of that. We're
Yeah,
good?
the
So-
ROP,
so-
there is not much.
So on the foundation, since I do sit on the committee too, you already mentioned the May 1st, but the application are now closed. And if you have established a scholarship, then it's time to review them and find your winner.
Yep, all right.
I just saw, we have over 200 applicants on ours, so it's going to be
I'm
a
also
lot of reading.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
also reading some of it.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to 9, public comment. Public comment for hearing of visitors for topics not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
We have quite a few, 4 items on the agenda, but none for not on the agenda.
Okay, so then we will, nothing for not on, so on the agenda then, we will then move to,
Oh, hang on, maybe I got this wrong. Is there one that's not? Oh. No, this is, I think, all related to the counselor. I think these, yeah, budget. I think it's all.
do we have?
Yeah,
any
it's all,
for-
these are all on the agenda, I think.
On the agenda, okay. Then we'll move on to 10.1, hearing of visitors on topics on the agenda. How many speakers do we have?
We have 16.
16? Just 3 minutes? Okay, so we'll do 3 minutes? Yeah.
Okay, first up, we have Colleen Haslett.
Hello. I'm here again, as I am probably just about every year in March, to talk about your resolution and women writing women's history. And while I appreciate the fact that you are this time going to have a resolution and you don't have to be reminded of it as it has been in the past, I'd like to remind you of what it looks like to be a female student in this district. Out of 13 school sites, only 1.5 are named after females. Historically, or not, it's 1.5. When you add in the Guy Emanuel Pavilion, the Al Rodriguez Gym, the Dan Oden Swim Complex, the Judson Taylor Track, any other school sites that may have facilities named after different people. One that comes to mind is Kevin Brodell at IVC in the multipurpose room. That seriously outnumbers male to female facilities naming. And you have the Mary Cardoza, ironically, centralized kitchen. Okay, the kitchen. All right. Athletics in this school district, if you look at Logan's current website, there are 13 sports that females participate in, only 6 female head coaches. When you talked about the girls' wrestling team tonight, I wonder who the girls' head wrestling coach is, and if it's also a female, if it is a female, or if it's also a male. Okay, you just hired a new superintendent. You had a great opportunity at that point to do a real thorough search to try to find a female to lead this district. And while I believe that Dr. Thompson is capable of doing the same job that a female can do, I'm wondering if you really seriously searched and thought seriously of female candidates. Did you interview any female candidates? Did any females end up in your top 3? I don't know, I'm just wondering if this is an unconscious bias that you're not even aware of. As far as applying for superintendent, since Guy Emanuel retired in the late 90s, there's been 3 female superintendents hired in this district. 2 of them were fired. If you're a female looking to be a superintendent, chances are you may not want to look in this district. Okay, granted, one of those females was the turn, and people could say possibly the decline of things for New Haven, and probably deserved to go. You still have fired, and I don't mean all of you, 2 of the 3 female superintendents you had in this district. I want to challenge this board to actually write history. Name one facility, one building, just not currently named after anybody, after a historically significant female, somebody that all students could look up to, just one. Okay, and you could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because we also don't have any schools named after any African Americans. Find an African American female, a female of any color. But start representing and showing the students in this district that you value the females that are here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Karina Rojo.
Good evening, board. I'm Karina Rojo. I am the school social worker at Cesar Chavez Middle School, and I am here today in support, not necessarily my job, although I will let you know that my job is being cut. Out of the 3 social workers, 1 social work position will be cut, in addition to different counseling positions who are going down to 50%. And the thing with that is that our kids are facing a crisis, a social emotional crisis. And to not invest in mental health and counseling is going backwards, and it's draconian. For example, I don't have any data, but should I be able to stay another year, that would be the very first thing I would do, is quantify and qualify how many kids have anxiety and depression. That's getting in the way of them being able to function. We have a lot of suicidal ideology from kids who are suffering from depression and anxiety, because stress is super high. We have a number of children who have trauma history. In fact, in this very room, a lot of us, people are not maybe familiar with the ACEs study, but most people have at least 1 trauma, if not more than 1. And then when you do suffer from a trauma, the more traumas that you suffer from, the more you're going to see that there are issues that people are suffering from because of that. And the thing too is that we're seeing a lot of compassion fatigue because we don't have enough providers to deal with the issues. So then we have teachers and counselors who are doing a ton of work trying to meet the mental health needs of our students when they have classes to teach. I was also a teacher for 17 years at high school at Newark Unified. And now I'm a social worker, my 2nd year, and part of the reason I got into social work was because the number 1 thing that I saw was that kids, no matter how great the lessons were, they could not take them in if they had social, emotional issues. It's just not possible. And we're seeing that in various research. This is not just my opinion. So I know I don't have that much time. I'm looking at the time right there. So I want to say, please, that you reconsider, seriously reconsider the cuts with counseling and social work. Please. We don't balance the budget on kids' backs. We don't do that. So please, board, I know you got into education because you love kids. Please, so do we. Thank you.
Next is, oh boy, and I'm sorry, I can't read the last name. Alexis as... Eka, it begins with an E. Sorry. Sorry. Probably need my glasses.
Hello. My name is Alexis Eckhart, and I go to Conley Carvalho High School. I went to Conley not caring about anything and on the road to being a high school dropout with a 1.2 GPA. And I came, and now I'm a changed person, and I'm got a 4.0 my first and second quarter at Conley. One person that has helped me achieve that is Ms. Reynoso. I recently heard that you guys are cutting counselors' jobs, my counselor's job, to part-time, to only working 2 days a week, and I think that's horrible. Counselors are essential to high school, and we only have one at our school. What is the point of going to an alternative high school that is literally based on getting extra help if we can't have a counselor? How are kids going to go to Conley seeking extra help to graduate when they find themselves with a counselor who's only working 2 days a week? That's crazy, and that's not going to benefit the student very much. Speaking of benefits, only having a part-time job for a counselor does not benefit Ms. Reynoso at all. How do you expect a person to live in the Bay Area with a part-time job only working 2 days a week? I think that you guys are going to lose her if you go on with this plan, because how is that realistic? That's crazy. And I find that your number one goal is helping the student get into the career they want, and that's literally what a counselor is for. And yeah, I didn't get to finish my speech on my phone. And I also feel like all the budget cuts are going towards the elementary schools, middle schools, Conley, Independent Study. None of them are really going towards Logan. I feel like all the other schools besides Logan are getting kind of like messed over. I think that if you want students to graduate from Conley, then we need our counselor there. Our counselor is an essential part of high school, and without her, I wouldn't be graduating, and neither would a lot of my peers probably. And that's it.
So, Joe Angeles, I got you up next.
Sorry about that, Dr. Tom. I didn't recognize my own name. So again, good evening, President Nishara, members of the board, student reps, district staff, Dr. Thompson, teachers, students, and district staff in the gallery, and parents and communities at home. I just wanted to say, of course, the thing that's most here that brought us here today, and it was just mentioned by the students as well as Ms. Rojo, the idea of the unfortunate thing of reductions in staff. I have no doubt, I understand it, we've been through it many times and we understand the need to do that, but I think we're at a time now where we have to think very much differently on how we serve students. I think it's only recent that we heard the term social emotional service for students. And I think with that in mind, I know what was mentioned earlier by several of the board members about the importance of the LCAP discussions in the community. And I think today, like Dr. Thompson mentioned in our meeting today with the unions, we had a chance to really look in detail about what the response was from all those different conversations. And the three most prevalent conversations that came in various ways of stating it was class size, counselors, and social work and social emotional support. The reason why people say that is because now everyone knows that kind of service to students, as you heard from a couple of students already now, that kind of service is what's needed to move to the next step of success, We all know traditionally, schools have been exclusionary. It kind of pushes out folks if you're a little bit different, or more importantly, if you have issues, social, that it may not be conducive to a school such as Logan. The two programs we discussed, Dakota as well as Conley, are designed to help those students. You've already heard how much success there are. So as we go forward, I'm hoping that we can continue the conversation about not so much changing our programs, but enhancing it for what's needed. We have examples currently that even though reductions were mentioned, we work together to try to get what's the best way to change up the service. And I think the fact that today, Dr. Thompson mentioned that one position has been brought off the list is a great thing about the discussion, and have a detailed target focus about what that means for loss of service. You already saw what happened with kindergarten a while back in another meeting. So I'm hoping, continuing here, even though it's said right now, based on the resolution you're looking at today, we're cutting services, but I think that example shows that a conversation about what it's worth, it's not technical, it's not by a caseload, it's about the work that must be considered, so that way students, who is what we do here in the school district, can succeed and be successful in all ways that they learn and how they can go to the future next step. Thank you.
Thank you, President Andrews.
Okay, looks like, oh man, Jalen? Is that, sorry.
Jaylene Mitchell.
Jaylene Mitchell? Is that, thank you.
As you can see, I don't have a list. I don't have paper, I don't have nothing. I'm just winging it right now. I think what you're doing to the counselors and cutting them off, that's a really big mistake. Like, I don't think you understand that Ms. Reynoso has helped a lot of people, a lot of students at Conley. And what you don't know is last year, I was going to kill myself. I was going to commit suicide. I was not going to be here this year. But if it wasn't for Ms. Reynoso helping me out, telling me that I can do this, I wouldn't be here. So what you're not understanding is counselors are literally saving lives. They're saving students' lives out here from depression because, like, I already forgot that woman's name. I'm so sorry. Miss Rojo. We all got a lot of trauma and depression and stuff that's going on with our lives. And they are here to help us with this. Like, they are here to give us hope, inspiration, to tell us that we can do this, that we can succeed. I don't know what else to say. I don't have paper. But yeah, it's crazy that y'all gonna do it.
Maria Ramirez.
Maria Ramirez?
Yes.
Can I come up with a group? We had all signed in, and we are addressing the same issue. Can we just come up?
Yeah, I mean, you just want to all stand up together?
All four of us.
Sure. Yeah.
For 12 minutes.
Good evening, New Haven board members, Dr. Thompson. I am Dr. Nina Genera, and I'm going to read my statement so I can get through it quickly. I am Dr. Nina Genera, an educator for 47 years, now a retired professor and counselor emeritus from Maloney College, where I served my last 31 years. After retirement, I was honored and fortunate to be asked to work with 3 other elders from this community to run a weekly young women's group at Conley Carabello High School. I come to you tonight to share some thoughts from both my years of experience as an educator and from my experiences and observations at Conley. I understand that most school districts find themselves having to make budget cuts, and as administrators, you have to find the means to do so with minimal disruption to students. Unfortunately, Most budget cuts usually fall on the backs of faculty and staff. And that, most often than not, equals to total disruption of students, to students, especially to your most vulnerable students, like we just heard. I am particularly speaking to the disruption of Connolly students, where I have firsthand knowledge. From my vantage point of having had 4 extraordinary years with young women at Connolly, it became clear to me that if Connolly did not exist, many of the young women in our groups would have fallen by the wayside and not have graduated from high school. But it isn't just the existence of the school itself. It is the extraordinary support system in the form of academic personnel that is provided to these students for them to not only survive high school, but to enthusiastically engage in learning and to develop and implement life skills for personal and familial traumas strangling their fragile lives. This is what counselors do for atypical students who come from marginalized communities, whose parents usually don't have the option nor the voice to stand before you here and fight for the services that their children deserve. I'm sure you're well aware that in order for children to succeed in the classroom, particularly in compromised districts, you have to have a strong academic support system in the form of counselors and social workers. And I'm not talking about just sorting out courses or making referrals. I'm talking about having strong, compassionate counselors who can relate to the students' needs and social workers who know the students' social emotional backgrounds and their family needs as well, in order to actualize the success of these students. And in order for these counselors and social workers to do their job right in serving their students and families, they need to be full-time faculty who will be respected as such and not as second-class citizens of academia. This district should be especially proud, as I am, of the fact that the two individuals whose positions are unfortunately being compromised in these cuts, and we've heard from one of them, Ms. Rojo, and the other one is Ms. Reynoso. They're actually two of my former students at Ohlone College who actually live in Union City and have a vested interest in the local families and success of their students. When Marisela and Corina were my students, we talked about the importance of returning to serve their communities. And here you have them. You have them right here. But they are rebuffed by the district cuts. And it's not enough to be offered part-time positions or to work out of the district office. To engage your students, you have to be engaged in your schools. 44 years ago, I too had to fight for my counseling position at Ohlone to be made a full-time position. And the Fremont, Newark, and Union City families and students came to the board meeting to support me. So 44 years later, I'm here before you tonight to fight for my former students' full-time positions. You think that in the past 44 years, we would have learned something about the importance of counselors and social workers fulfilling the specialized needs of our students and to support the teachers who teach them. Thank you for your time.
Okay, my name is Maria Ramirez. I saw you all last year because the grandmothers of Connolly were in support of the parents and the teachers and the community, you know, and it wasn't personal, but we just felt so much. And again, now we are here again because of the cuts. Marisela was the one that brought us to Connolly. And she didn't bring us as, you know, the old grannies that sit in the rocking chair. No, because she knows that we represent the grandmothers and the clan mothers. This is Women's History Month. The clan mothers of the Americas who had a lot to say with the society and who would be chief and how things would be run. And we have brought what we've learned as educators and people that were written off. Most of us were written off. I went to school here in the system and was tracked. There was tracking. And what we're able to bring to the girls is the world, the importance of education, and to be strong and to overcome. And what we saw in Conley through Maricela was a gem. This school is a gem. Why don't you invest in it? Right now, I know the enrollments are going down, but it was up to 200 and something, and those are 200 and something students from Logan that were failing. Freshman, sophomore year, and they would tell us, oh, we didn't want to come because, we thought it was worse, but they were turned off, but they told us, both the boys and the girls, Pacific Island, African American, white women, Latina, Chicana, Native American, they were all saying this opened them. The kinds of teachers that they had, the counselor, she was not just a counselor. When you know your community and the kinds of historical traumas, she opened up the idea of wellness and preventative things, not only education. How do we heal the wounds? Give them strength. So that is why we're here, and that's why, after the strike, we were in front of Conley, and we were all for the teachers, and we could feel there was something coming from administration, But that's not what it's about. It's about these cuts. Invest. As a product, 50 years ago when I didn't drop out, but 50 years ago the dropout rates were high, and the school dropout to the prison pipeline is what awaited our kids. How come prisons can give $35,000 per children? I know at the meeting you said $10,000. What's the priority in saving people from prison? And our kids don't deserve to be in prison. They have potential. If you looked at the history of the Americas, we were strong in math, in science, environmentally. For millennium, this was a clean environment. So this is what we bring, a history, and then how they could use their skills for the future that everybody will benefit from. You need to invest. Aren't there ways that you can do that? A prevention from prison pipeline? How about that?
I wasn't sure I was going to make it because I just got back from my Zumba class volunteering. I came to work here in 1981 as a bilingual kindergarten teacher, and I had one of my students is now having her job cut, and it just really breaks my heart because the investment that she's done and other counselors to the kids, it's so admirable, and I've seen it firsthand. And we go by her office and there's students always trying to get in, talk to her, and she makes that time. And we see her, and she doesn't even take a lunch because she's just so committed to what she's doing. And she's a product of this district too. And it's just really sad to know that, this is happening. We need a lot of these services for our kids. We really do. And I can see my 2 fifth-grade grandsons going to be needing probably services, counseling services. And we're just in more need these days, way more need than when I was teaching. So.
I'll just be really brief. I think I've been volunteering.
I'm sorry, can you introduce yourselves to, this is all on the record, so I didn't catch you. We have the cards and we have to reconcile them, so.
Lidia Martinez.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, I didn't know I was going to make it.
That's
so.
okay.
And I'm Cynthia Alonso, and I have been volunteering for the school district for 20-something years at Searles. Cesar Chavez and went over to Conley many years ago, and I'm one of the grandmothers. And there's so much stress in our lives and trauma and violence that our kids, it seems like to be ever increasing. Immigration problems, we have these viruses, illnesses, things going on. And it makes a difference. It makes a difference. Many of the students have said to me, I don't have anyone to talk to at home. I don't have anyone I could even share these stories with. And we would see them, even just the four of us, once a week throughout a semester. But we noticed that there was a tremendous impact in the amount of girls that were graduating. We were working with the girls. I worked with the boys before as well. But anyway, I know money is, it's finances. They're, cut and dry. However, these kids' lives are worth, and their hope and their future are worth more than anything. Thank you.
Excuse me, I just want to say that I heard Dr. Thompson say that that you will need to cut one counselor and one social work position. And I just want to say it's not cutting one and one. It's destroying the lives of many, many students like the one we heard today, because we've seen it.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Abigail, it looks like Andrade? Yeah, Andrade.
Good evening. I brought a report from the ACLU that they just released a few days ago, actually. It's called Cops and No Counselors, How the Lack of School Mental Health Staff is Harming Students. And I just want to read a few points. Actually, I'm a counselor at Logan, so I forgot to mention that. So a few points. So today's school children are experiencing record levels of depression and anxiety alongside multiple forms of trauma, like our student said here. According to the Center for Disease Control, the suicide rate among children ages 10 to 17 has increased by 70% from 2006 to 2016. 1 in 5 youth will develop mental health difficulties, eventually warranting a diagnosis. And 1 in 10 youth will be impacted by their mental health needs, enough to require additional supports from schools. Students are 21 times more likely to visit school-based health centers for mental health than community mental health centers. Research has shown that school-based mental health providers improve school climate and other positive outcomes for students. Like our counselors Maricela and our social worker, Ms. Rojo, who are essential to the well-being of our students every single day. I cannot do my job as a counselor if I did not have the social workers on site that I could reach to immediately when there is a kid in my office saying, I want to die. When there's students every week who say, I don't know the purpose for living. Why am I here? We celebrate our students who earn 4.0s, and they should be celebrated. I love those students. I have great relationships with those students. But then we forget about the $10,000 kids who we see as a waste of money or a cost to us versus the needs that they need to survive every single day. I started in the district as a family service assistant with the Union City Family Center. My first site was Conley Carabeo. As a graduate from James Logan in 2006, I had heard stories about Conley Carabeo High School. I was unsure about working there. They work miracles every single day. I am proud of Conley. I have my Conley t-shirt on my chair in my Logan office so that when I have those difficult conversations with students about their progress at Logan, I tell them, you can trust me. I can tell you all the million beautiful things that the staff does here, but until you arrive on that campus and you feel the love, the smiles, the good mornings every day, the goodbyes at the end of your day, and you know that there is one constant person, well, there's plenty of constant people who make you feel seen, heard, and valued, You can't take that away. You can't take that away from the kids who desperately need it. We're quick to respond. We're very reactionary, when we see a lot of the violence that's happened in our community throughout this year. And we want, these mental health supports, and people have to react. No, we have to have those services every single day so that those incidents don't happen. I'm going to reclaim my time because we're waiting here clicking Facebook or talking about Facebook links.
Wait, can you say that again?
I'm going to talk for a little bit longer.
No, we've got a time at 3 minutes.
Okay, well, I have a couple more things to say. So when we're moving social workers from the school sites and we're moving them to the district, we're removing them from the kids when they need that interpersonal connection. When you guys are celebrating 4.0 students, I ask that you come and check in with the counselors, check in with the teachers who are dealing with students with social emotional issues who can't get through the day, and celebrate the work that they're putting into. I'll leave this for John Thompson.
Thank you.
Next, Jessica Gonzalez. Jessica Gonzalez.
All right. So I am here, like many of the people here, to shine some light on Conley Carballo High School. My background, I am from Union City, went to all Union City schools, went to college and came back, and now I'm teaching in the district. I really think, I got my teaching credential in 2009. I think Conley is the spot I want to be at. The Conley is the spot I would like to stay and retire. I think Conley can do so many wonderful things. We educate the whole student. We have extremely caring teachers, especially right now. We have a great staff, and we have a perfectly selected counselor who is from our community, who is devoted and hardworking. Cannot count the number of hours she works. We often text at night thinking of ideas for Conley. We are a perfect blend of academics, career technical training. We have Mission Valley ROP on our campus with culinary and business. We have enrichment, and we give social emotional learning. And we're constantly improving. We're always thinking of how we can better serve the new students that come in every day. We're a very proud school, and like some of the Conley grandmas said, we are kind of a hidden gem. The reason why I'm speaking about Conley is because I don't think a lot of people know what Conley is. In fact, over the past 2 years, we've had over $30,000 in scholarships given to our students. Our teachers have been awarded over $33,000 in grants in the past 2 years for classroom projects and other things for the school. We surveyed our students, and 90% wish they came to Conley sooner. 99% say they're happy they came to Conley, and we get a lot of students from James Logan and Dakota School of Independent Studies. More importantly, our students feel safe on the Conley campus, and I don't think that is measurable. I do want to speak about the community engagement opportunities you spoke of earlier. Conley is a school that serves a community that typically doesn't advocate for themselves. I'm extremely proud of our students who are here speaking. They're definitely not used to this setting. You might not know, but we are 77% Latino. We're a Title I school. We have 100% free lunch. We know the school district has like a social justice lens, and we're trying to teach our students that advocacy is very important, but there are barriers to advocacy. Attendance is hard. It is almost 9 o'clock at night, and we still have people here, and we appreciate that. Confidence. I'm used to speaking in front of groups, and this is hard for me. Our students are here, our community is here, but that is a struggle for a lot of our community. And in particular, I know you guys spoke about the survey that maybe you have 38 responses to online, but that survey is really challenging for a lot of members in our community, which is when I would like you to rethink the accessibility of that survey, because it is, even as a teacher, staff member, it's hard for me to put in, to give my voice, let alone the students.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez.
Next is Renee Whitworth.
Hello, everyone. My name is Renee Whitworth, and I've been teaching at Conley Carballo High School for 12 years. I have a few things I want to talk about, but I first just want to, again, tell you a little bit about how how we prepare students for college and career readiness at Conley. How do we promote equity in a group of students that are very disenfranchised from traditional education and who often have gone through great struggles? One thing, we have a very beautiful small campus that lets students feel safe and secure. It's right up against the hills, there are gates, there's art, they have space to be outside and mingle and feel very comfortable. We also have small class sizes. We are incredibly blessed with that. And we have very attentive teachers that really focus in and give to the students and see what they need. But really, at the hub of all of this, what wouldn't work, none of this would work if we did not have Ms. Reynoso at the center. Because she is the one who we turn to when we have a student who, just like the other day, like I could see the student was very upset. They could not focus. I have a place, a person to send that student to. I have someone who coordinates with the community, who makes sure that this person has services. She is invested in our students and in the community in a way that I don't think I've seen before. You know, a student walks in, and because she lives in the community, she knows what their grandparents or their parents went through. She has an idea about generational trauma. And that is a resource when you are working with students who are dealing with multiple traumas, with a lot of challenges. You just can't turn away from. That is huge. I was talking to her, and you know, she said, if I have time, basically I have time for my paperwork. So 60% of her job is emotional. She works with students. She's not a defined emotional therapist, but her job encompasses that. She's a college counselor, she's an academic counselor, she's also an emotional counselor. And she is, again, this hub, which if you took that away, what happens, right? Like, where do those students go? Where do we send them? You know, I feel so fortunate. I didn't grow up in this community. I grew up in an all-white community. I grew up with a certain degree of privilege. And I feel so lucky to work at a school that, and think right now especially, we provide resources and we can give students that traditionally don't get resources, that get cut, we give them things that help them. And you take away those things, you take away our counselor, and they're back in the same, I'm done, but they're back in the same spiral, in the same situation they were in before. You have an opportunity here, this gem, to keep it going and to build it higher. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Next is Chris Castillo.
Hello, I'm Chris Castillo. I'm a senior at Conley Carabello High School. And I'm standing in front of you guys because I heard about the whole cutting of Mr. Reynoso. A little bit about me. At Logan, I couldn't succeed. I had like a 1.5 GPA, I think. Sports was always my number one, and when sports was taken away from me, I felt like I'm not going to succeed in life. And I just wanted to drop out of school and just do nothing and just work. I came to Conley Carabello, and Mr. Reynoso actually sat down with me, and I got to know me, and she gave me a road, if you will, of how I can graduate. She gave me a pathway of how I can graduate. And I took that, and because of Mr. Reynoso, I'm proud to say that I'm gonna be able to walk the stage on June. And I also got 12 scholarships too, because of Mr. Reynoso and Miss Ali too. Thank you. I don't know if you know this to Dr. Thompson, but Mr. Reynoso was raised in this community. She worked in this district for I think 10 years, right? About 10 years. Conley Carabello. And she's so involved in the community. I feel like the fact that you're gonna strip her job out of nowhere, I feel like that's just not fair. Mr. Reynoso helps a lot of students, and like Jay, students that struggle with a lot, Mr. Reynoso helps them a lot. She sits down with them, and Mr. Reynoso is always the first one to come at Conley. She's always the last one to leave. And I feel like that's not right, that if you take her position, like I know Logan has like a lot of counselors, So like I just want to ask, how come we can't like take more counselors from Logan and like leave our one counselor? Because we only have one counselor at Conley, and she does so much, and I just feel like Mr. Nelson doesn't deserve getting her job taken away. Working 10 years, and I'm only one story of many that she's helped. I'm only one soul that she's helped. I'm only one soul that she's helped to college. And because of Mr. Nelson, because of the whole staff at Conley, I'm going to be able to graduate and be able to go to college. And now I know that there's more than just sports in life, and I know what my purpose is in life, and I know I don't want to be in life because of Mr. Noso. And I was debating if I should come talk, but I realized that this is bigger than me. This is bigger than us in this room. This is for the next generation. It's for the next student that wants to quit. That's like me. and yeah, I don't know if I'd be here without Mr. Noso. And like I said, I'm only one of many that she's helped. And yeah, thank you.
Next is Josephine, and oh boy, sorry, I can't read. It begins with an F, last name. That's all I can get out of that. Josephine? That's not an F, that's an M. Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Josephine Munoz. I reside here in Dakota on 2nd Street. I'm here on behalf of my nephew and my niece who attend Conley. And I hear nothing but wonderful things regarding the teachers, staff, and especially Ms. Reynoso. My niece, Delaney, is an academically troubled student here in James Logan. It's too big, it's too overwhelming. And all I ever hear is that, oh, she calls her Maricela, but when she goes to Conley, she'll refer to her as Ms. Reynoso. And she's so excited to attend Conley. And she's one of those cases where she has special needs. So she needs that extra attention from not only from a counselor, but also from social workers. You have to imagine when you go to, let's just say we go to the grocery store, right? We complain, 3's a crowd, right? Put another cashier. Why am I waiting so long? Now here you are asking 200 plus students to schedule to seek help from a counselor that comes in only once or twice a week. Is that just? We're so impatient to get attended at a grocery store to pay our groceries. How can we sacrifice that for our students, for our children, our future? I hear how proud you are of the students, the 400 plus students that are on the honor roll. I'm proud of them too. But they got there because they had the counselors and the social workers to guide them there. Conley students deserve that as well. They don't deserve a part-time counselor. I read that sign over there says, all employees are responsible for the education of all students. That doesn't just fall upon the teachers, the faculty, counselors, but it also resides on you. You are our children's future as well, and whatever you decide will affect them, whether for the good or the bad. But hopefully it's for the benefit for our students, because this is why we're here, right? For our students. And I'm sure some of you have children, and imagine if your school cut back and didn't provide your children everything that they needed in order to succeed in life. Thank you.
Okay, Cheryl Larson.
Hi, I started in this district in 1987 and left 2 years ago.
I started at Barnard White and ended at Conley. And I just heard about this urgent situation really shortly before the meeting. So I didn't prepare anything, but on the way here I thought, oh, you know, I'm going to share that Madi was one of my all-time favorite students and colleagues in Barnard White. She was a student of mine in 5th grade. But you ladies stole my shine. Because she's been everybody's student and everybody knows her. But Madi in particular is uniquely qualified for this job. I don't think I've seen, she has an unusual level of commitment that's just really soulfully felt. And so she's working with a vulnerable community, the school, and is really, really needed. I've spent countless hours in her office speaking one-on-one and with students regarding very serious issues. So number one, I think we have a uniquely qualified counselor. And number two, I think we really have to think of kids first. And it's got to be a mantra and a goal. And if we are thinking about kids first, then we need to, you know, provide that service. And then finally, I was thinking during the meeting about the lack of funds and the fact that the state isn't funding schools like they should. And I'm hoping that this district will join with others to support schools and communities first, whatever the proposition number ends up being, so that we can reclaim some of the funds that we deserve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Samira Mirzada.
Hi, I'm Samina Mirzada. I'm a senior from Conley Carabello High School. I'm here speaking for our counselor, Ms. Reynoso, and the support for our social worker, Ms. Rojo. I wanted to speak for Ms. Reynoso and how if her position gets cut to a part-time, the impact me and every student that attend Conley Carabello and will be attending will have. Ms. Reynoso is the main reason many students were able to graduate and stay on track. She brings students all together and speaks to them. She gets them together one-on-one and connects with them. She isn't just a counselor to us, but so much more I cannot explain. She doesn't see any students as numbers, but as people and understands us. She gives us many opportunities she sees best for us. If she gets cut to a part-time, students don't have the opportunity to go to a counselor and get the help they need, but to make appointments on when or who can see her. This will cause, in my opinion, chaos, and the graduation rate would go low. One thing that I will never forget that Ms. Reynoso had done is she got everyone in a classroom together and she had everyone's transcript. And she does so much work, more than you can even think of. She takes her time and day to work on each individual person in Conley for their transcript to make sure everyone is in track to graduate. And I appreciate that so much, because if it wasn't for her, I don't think I'd be on track to graduate. And for our social worker, for Ms. Rojo, I have a little sister who goes to Cesar Chavez Middle School, and she is in that class. And Ms. Rojo also speaks about how students have trauma and the things they go through home and school. I feel like she is also the reason why a lot of students are on their feet and able to go to school and able to have someone to talk to, even if there's no one at home. That is all I have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Anaya Price. Did I say that wrong? Oh, is that Anaya? Oops. God. Anaya Price. Last name Price? Or she left? Okay. Okay. And then Mandy Pritchard.
Good evening. My name is Mandy Pritchard. I'm a parent of a Conley student as well as the school site council president at Conley. When my daughter first was going to attend Conley, I didn't really know what to expect, but I'll tell you that my expectations were exceeded at Conley. The administration, the teachers, the staff, and Ms. Reynoso are fantastic. And as others have mentioned, it doesn't make sense to me why, you would have a counselor part-time at Conley. The students need the support, and she is dedicated to these students. Every time I go there, she knows exactly what's going on with my child and comes and talks to me about how things are going, and I really appreciate that. If we want our community to be strong, we need to support our young people. It's non-negotiable. I'm happy to say that my daughter just got an email from Ohlone with her student number, and she's going to be attending Ohlone in the fall. And that's in part thanks to Ms. Reynoso. So I would like to challenge the board to think differently about the budget, about how to think outside the box, how to streamline expenses in a different way, not cutting our counselor at Conley. That's unacceptable. When I think about my retirement, I don't rely on the government, the Social Security Fund, to pay for that. We need to be more creative about how we can get funds and not just rely on the state, because obviously that's not going to cut it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it? That's all of them? Okay. All right. All right, thank you. Moving on to action item 11.1, may I have a motion and a second to expel students 1 through 3?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
None.
Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Yeah.
Okay, moving on to 11.2, resolution number 035-1920, Women's History Month. May I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
I have comments. I was just going to comment that Ms. Hazlitt brought up a really good point, and she did so last year as well. So point well taken. I hope we take that into consideration if we're ever building a new site or renaming any of our existing sites or a program. So something we will definitely, as a board, will make a commitment to when we're renaming any of these sites. So thank you again for bringing that up to us.
Yeah, so that was actually my comment as well. I know, like you have mentioned, that we have made some progress, that before we had to ask to bring that resolution on the board, but now it comes. So that's some progress, but at the same time, thank you for challenging our psyches again. I can tell you about my decision making when we were hiring our superintendent. I did not pay attention to the gender. I just solely made my decision on the merit, and I don't regret that. So there are things, but then certainly I am open to explore if we can find some opportunities to honor women's work. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
And we are 3 women here.
All right, any further discussion?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to 11.3, may I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 036-1920, reduction of classified and/or classified management?
Second.
Discussion? No?
No, not a discussion really, just want to make sure that there were a lot of community participation, and just want to make sure that we are doing the right thing and keeping the cuts away from the students. And I just want to be, I know there are several other items, so I will be just making the comment one time only, because there are more for the certificate staff, the next few action items. We as a board do our due diligence to make sure that we keep the cuts away from the students, but at the same time, the realities of the budget and everything. So I'm seeing it first time that there are so many restructuring, and we are reducing the administration positions. And I really appreciate John, our new superintendent, for taking a comprehensive kind of approach at the system level, that how we can make the system efficient and keep the cuts away from the students. And I'm very, very thankful. And this is my general comment for the 2-3 action items we have for the classified as well as for certification reduction of the workforce. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Okay. Moving on to 11.4, resolution number 037-1920, particular kinds of services for certificated layoff. May I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 037-1920, particular kinds of services, certificated layoff?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Not discussion, the comments, the same thing. So I see the number of positions: the counselor, teacher, library, house principal, assistant principal, restorative justice social worker, adult school principal. So because it does not mention that which counselor position will be eliminated, just want to make sure that is it the position from the Colin Caravello or?
No.
No.
It's the least senior counselor. It actually doesn't affect any permanent employees. We have a temporary counselor who'll be released. We will be eliminating one counseling position, and we have an alternative education task force right now that's working on looking at how we can better provide service for our students. I agree with all the Connolly teachers. Connolly is a great program, but it's operating somewhat independently on its own, and we need to do a better job of integrating our programs. In the course of doing that, we'll be looking at counseling holistically between Logan, Dakota, and Connolly. And amongst that group, there will be a reduction of one FTE in counseling. Like I said earlier, when you're declining enrollment, it's not a problem unless you continue to right size. So we have to right size and get better.
Right. No, I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that, where the position, how the position will impact the community. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion?
That's it.
So is it like the counselor is like already a set person?
This reduction will not affect any permanent employees. We have a counselor on a temporary contract who is already released separately, and that's a temp release that happens every year anyway. We in the current configuration, unless something changes, we won't be hiring her back. But Mary Sella and all the other counselors will have a job. That's the difference.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for being more specific.
Yeah.
For the students.
I mean, one counselor, but to be fair, one counselor that's currently employed now will not have a job next year, but it will be the counselor that was going to be released on the temporary contract.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like now at this point we'll be rehiring her. But we're in the process of looking at. I mean, you've seen this change already twice in our recommendations. By the time it gets to the board in June with the final recommendations, I can't tell you what the final configuration is going to look like.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question, Member Frick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, that's it.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Okay, moving on to 11.5, non-reemployment of probationary certificated employees. May I have a motion and a second to approve non-reemployment of probationary certificated employees?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, please.
Only comment or question you can say, I know because of the confidentiality reasons, we don't have the names here, but we have employee numbers, but to maintain the confidentiality, but at the same time, I would like to have, in the closed session, maybe if you can give us the names of those positions cut because of these 4 positions.
Okay.
So at least we, as a board member, we have a better understanding of how we are allocating the resources or the positions.
Could I ask you to bring that up when we get to the consensus items? We're directing staff on specific requests.
Okay, I think if you can note that, okay. In the end, yeah. Thank you, thank you.
All right, further discussion?
That's it.
Okay, roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Moving on to 11.6, non-reemployment of temporary certificated employees. May I have a motion and a second to approve non-reemployment temporary certificated employees?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, please.
Same comment, the number, employee number, if we have that information with the name in the closed session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, no further discussion, roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Okay, moving on to 11.7, California School Board Association Delegate Assembly election for 2020. All right, may I have a motion and a second to approve the list? Actually, I don't have the list in front of me.
Do you want me to say the names?
Yes, please.
We have Ann White, Mia Vanta, James Aguilar, and Monique Tate Williams.
Okay, with the first 3 are the official ones that are on the ballot.
Right.
And then Ms. Tate is the write-in, correct? Okay. All right, and last time we had so why don't we do this? Why don't we get the motion on the table, and then we can discuss any movement that we'd like to make. So currently, I need a motion and a second to approve the slate of Ann White, Mia Lisa Bonta, and John Aguilar.
James Aguilar.
James Aguilar. May I have a...
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion now.
Do we discuss the write-in after or with this one?
What we should probably do is figure out what slate we actually do want to approve. We can do that. We can do that during this discussion time, and then we can amend the motion to change the names if we want to.
Okay, so right now we have 3 that we got from CSBA and 1 additional possible write-in. I would like to propose that we're required to put in 3 because they decrease the number of representatives.
From 3 to 4.
Yeah.
4 to 3.
So is it possible if we could do them 1 at a time rather than writing all 3 at one time, and then it would be too complicated?
You mean do each individual motion for each?
Right, for each, and do three times for 3 seats.
Okay, then I will, then we will let that motion fall on the floor, that we just, motion second. And then, all right, then may I have a motion and a second to elect Ann White to the CSBA Delegate Assembly. Okay. Seeing no second, it looks like there seems to be a preference on the board that the slate be Mia Lisa Bonta, Monique Tate, and James Aguilar. That being
I
that
move
there
that. I move that.
Second.
Okay, so then to clarify, the motion on the table is to approve James Aguilar, Mia Lisa Bonta, and Monique Tate to the CSBA Delegate Assembly. That is the motion on the table. Any further discussion?
I just want to make a comment that I read all the 4, their resumes, their education, their experience. I know Ann White is she has a very institutional kind of knowledge for a long time, but at the same time, Livermore had good representation for a number of years. I think we should give a new member a chance. And also, because of the diversity reasons, I have changed my mind. But previously, I was thinking to have this slate, so I have changed my mind to support the Monique Tate.
Okay, great. Yes, Member Campbell.
I just want to add that delegates play a huge role in persuading CSBA regarding the directions it's going, and I think we need representatives who will be representing people that are familiar with our needs, and I believe that the people we have in our slate are familiar with our demographics and the needs of this part of town.
Okay. All right. Thank you for those discussion points. Are we ready for roll call?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Okay. Moving on to 11.8, approval of MOU by and between New Haven Unified School District and Alameda County Office of Education for outreach and activities related to the census. May I have a motion and a second to approve the MOU?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, please. Okay, roll call.
Aye.
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 Okay. Moving on to 11.9. May I have a motion and a second to approve the 1920 second term report and multi-year projections for 2021, 21-22, and the approval of Resolution 038-1920, resolution to reflect the commitment of the Board of Education to enact a plan to address any budgetary shortfalls in its multi-year analysis.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
No discussion. All of my questions, they were answered during the earlier item on the agenda.
Great. Thanks. Seeing no further discussion, roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Okay. Yes.
Yeah, point of order, President. I was wondering if you're going to read into the record the resolution on women's history.
It is certainly something we can do.
Because I know traditionally that we do that, read a resolution into the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Let's see, let me figure
Thank you for your
out.
consideration.
Number 11.2.
Yeah. Why don't we do this, let's see here.
Should do consent and then go back maybe?
Yeah, let's do consent, and then we'll
Yeah.
we'll address that at
Right.
the end. Okay. All right, so are there any items that members would like for separate vote to be pulled out of consent? Vote, okay.
No, not separate vote, but I would like to have a comment on 12.2.
Do you want to get a motion on the table?
Yeah, why don't we do this? Why don't we get a motion, and then we can address any discussion points
Sure.
during the discussion area. Okay. Just a second, please. My battery ran out, so. Oh, that works, that's better. May I have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 12.1 through 12.35?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, now discussion.
Actually, I can have my comments later on. It's 9:15, so
Oh, okay.
no,
All right.
no discussion, no
Okay, so no
comments.
discussion? All right. There is one, sorry, anybody else would like to discuss anything? Very, very quickly, I'll just make a very quick note on 12.10, which is the revised board policy. Just wanted to highlight section 10F that says, as a board policy, providing sharing tables where unused cafeteria foods may, in accordance with the Health and Safety Code, be returned or for student use or donated to a food bank or other nonprofit charitable organization. One of the things that I believe will be coming to our board very quickly or very soon is a presentation from Stop Waste and from Jason in charge of our maintenance and transportation. So look for that conversation coming to the board somewhat soon. It's also near and dear to some nonprofit work that I've been doing for years.
Me too.
And so it would be really interesting to see how we can feed more people with the food that we're already producing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Okay, with that, let's see, why don't we do this? Why don't I entertain a motion and a second to add to an agenda item? I guess we can just add it to.
It's part of adjournment, actually, prior to
Number.
recognize the moments and read it into the.
We just read it.
Okay.
Yeah, under 13, we can read that under
Yeah.
13.
Prior to adjournment?
Yeah.
Okay, prior to adjournment. Okay, well then why don't we then move on to board consensus? So 14.1, does anybody from the board have any particular direction they would like for staff to work
Not
through?
staff, I think board members should read it now.
Wait, are you doing the Women's History Month or are
No,
you doing
we're
the
gonna do that
request?
we're going to do that right prior to adjournment.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have none.
I do. I know this is probably not, people are not thinking about this right now, but I think as we head to marketing our district, it might be a good idea to highlight our school's successes and positive accomplishments. We've already started it, we've done a few already, but it'd be nice just to see one, perhaps one per meeting. I know it's going to increase the minutes of our meetings, but I think we should see what's going on in our schools that are wonderful, and if it's televised, the community sees that as well. So, possible request. And then the other question I have is, a few years ago, we were talking about, to Ms. Haslett's comment regarding women in history, we were talking about teachers writing the RIGHT, not
Writing the history. RIGHT.
So I'm wondering about the status of that project that we started a few years ago, and just an update in the future. It's no rush, but I think we don't want to drop it because we have started the ball rolling, and we just
All
don't
right,
want.
looks like the first one was a direction to me as board president to find an agenda item somewhere to continually kind of celebrate students. So we'll take that as a point of working through an agenda item. And then the second one seems to be a direction to staff, which is specifically around getting a status on women writing history.
Women.
Yeah, I'm not. I
It's
don't know.
RIGHT.
It is before your time.
A few years ago, Jessica Wilder, in collaboration with Rosie Rios, who was one of the Treasurer of the United States, project about how we are including women history in our classrooms, and there was a huge interest in it, because if you walk in I was hearing from people speaking from the audience that when you walk in people's classrooms, you hardly see a picture of a woman in there, and kids are making notice, saying, whoa, what's happening here? Is it just men in history and in the textbooks and in the literature? So there was an interest in trying to do that.
Is there a staff member that you can direct the superintendent to get status?
Yeah, we can research it. We'll just have to look into it.
Okay.
Lori might know it. I think Lori was here when Rio, she came here in person, and then I remember she also introduced one of women on one of the bills. I think it was
She-
Color Bill or
she was
something like
here.
this.
She
We'll
was
look
here.
that up.
Yeah.
It's somewhere.
From Moreau that did the presentation.
We'll,
New Haven student who was going to Moreau. She brought a teacher of hers also.
yeah, we'll have to. We'll look
Yeah.
into it. That's all I can tell you.
She was here actually in person, and we held that conversation at that point.
I think we were all on the board. It was in 2016 she was here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seeing that helps. Thanks.
All right. Any further staff direction?
Remember I asked for the name of the employees?
Okay.
Yeah, we can bring that to the closed
in the
section on
closed
that
session, yeah.
21st.
Okay. Great. All right, so I believe that is it for item 14. So prior to adjournment, my battery's dead. Would somebody
Would you like me to
volunteer to
read
read the
it?
resolution?
Can we all do some part?
I'm fine with me.
Why don't you read it? No, I'm okay.
About the student.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah,
there you go.
Thank you.
Right.
Great idea.
Where do I start?
From the top, whereas.
Resolution number 035-1920. Okay. Women's History Month, March 2020. Whereas the advocacy efforts of the National Women's History Project led to an annual observance of Women's History Month, which highlights the contributions of women to events in history and contemporary society, is celebrating during March in the United States. And whereas women of every race, socio-economic status, sexual orientation, and ethnic background have made significant and historic contributions to the growth and strength of our society in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas women continue to play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of the nation by constituting a significant portion of the labor force. And whereas women have played a unique role throughout our history by providing the majority of the nation's volunteer labor force, and were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in the country. And whereas women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement and
Abolitionist
movement and the emancipation movement and the industrial labor movement and the civil rights movement, which create a more fair and just society for all. And whereas women are still not paid equally to that of their male counterparts, women still are not present in equal numbers in leadership, business, or politics, and globally, women's education, health, and the violence against them is worse than that of men. And whereas, despite these contributions, the role of women in history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, labor, business, and in study of history. And whereas the History Social Science Framework for California Public Schools, kindergarten through grade 12 states that the history of community, state, region, nation, and world reflect the experiences of men and women of different racial, religious, and ethnic groups, that the study of this inclusive history be integrated at every grade level in the curriculum. And whereas the Board of Education supports the efforts of former U.S. Treasurer Rosie Rios to update curriculum to include the contributions of women throughout history, and whereas the Board of Education provides opportunities for students to learn about the contributions of women in history through our Ethnic Women's Studies class, and whereas additional education is needed to increase the knowledge of all citizens relative to the contributions of women and opportunities for girls and women to develop their leadership skills and to eliminate bias in education and the workforce. Whereas March 8 is recognized each year as International Women's Day, a global day to celebrate the economic, political, and social achievements of women's past, present, and future, and a day to recognize the obstacles that women still face in the struggle for equal rights and opportunities. And whereas March is Women's History Month and March 8th is recognized as International Women's Day, New Haven Unified School District stresses the achievements of women are of such extreme significance to not be limited to a single month and should be integrated into the mindsets year-round. Whereas that the contributions and achievements of women, though often unnoticed, have proven vital in all aspects of development of the United States of America from its natural beginning. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the New Haven Unified School District joins with the Alameda County Board of Education and the Alameda County Superintendent of Schools to encourage all educational communities to commemorate March 2020 as Women's History Month, with appropriate instructional activities to recognize the countless contributions that women have made to help our nation achieve greatness.
Thank you so much. Yes, Member Chima.
Thank you so much, Joe, for reminding us. This is traditionally we all read the resolutions, but for some reason, agenda was heavy and it got skipped. And thank you for reminding us to read this resolution. And while I was reading, oh my God, so many thoughts came to my mind. I will just share two of them. In the language they were mentioned that one thing is this is the 100th anniversary of League of Women Voters, which has changed the history of the United States. You know, women, they were not given the right to vote. And otherwise we will not be here, all the three of us at all. And the second thing I remember, I did get to do some work through my actual work on the United Way campaign for charitable causes, and their history, it started from the two women, they started that non-profit work as a closet. If I don't know if somebody remembers the closet to like donate the clothes and everything, and then charitable work. And I was amazed to learn that, you know, women, they start, now it's a worldwide organization, United Way of America. International, that was also two things just came to my mind. Thank you so much for giving me time and reading.
Great, thanks very much. And before we adjourn, I did also want to thank President Angeles and Ms. Hazlitt for the reminder. A lot of things, you know, we get kind of wrapped up in business, and thank you for calling that out.
Right.
All right, seeing no further business, we are adjourned.